the shootout from 4:30 until 6 o'clock. Well, Alex Tagliani is P1 at the moment. Now, we promised you a little bit earlier an In Color with Jack Arute featuring Paul Tracy and Barry Green. And when we come back, we will have that interview. It's pole day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Great to have you with us here on Versus. The track is open for practice right now. We have had our 24 qualifiers locked in right now. They're not locked in right now, but we have 24 who have qualified so far today. Well, Paul Tracy has been reunited this year with Barry Green for the first time since the controversial race back in 2002. That Tracy still says that he won. Barry will be his race day strategist for the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Here's Jack Arute's in-color interview with Tracy and Green.
How did you get him to come back to this circus?
Well, it wasn't too difficult. Jimmy had come to me and said, look, I can't be with you every day down there at Indy. I've got to float between these 3 drivers I got, keep an eye on them, coach them. If you want to look into finding somebody to manage your team for you, you know, we're open to doing that. You know, the suggestion was made to approach Barry, got a hold of his number and called him right after Long Beach, and I don't know what he thought at first. I think he was caught off guard a little bit. Was surprised to hear from me, and called me back the next day and said, let's do it. I'm ready.
Why? I mean, you're living the Jimmy Buffett life. You got away from all of this. Why come back?
You know, Jack, I mean, it's no secret. I mean, I miss the sport. You know, I'm not sure I miss it enough to get back involved as an owner, because I do know how hard that is, believe me. Paul called me and believe it or not, I had a conflict in my schedule, which people would laugh at, but I am flat out. I don't know what I do most of the time, but I am flat out. But you know, Paul called me, and then I called a couple of guys that, you know, I keep in with, and talked about it, and we talked about KV Racing and who they have on the staff, and it's a pretty good little team. What the heck, you know, working again with Paul, got great memories, had a lot of fun races. Sure, we had a few bumps in the road along the way, but and I think that's good for Paul, it's good for me. I know what upsets Paul, what doesn't upset Paul, what he needs, what he doesn't need. So I can bring a little bit of comfort, I guess, to the radio side of it. So my job's pretty easy. I mean, Paul's got the tough job.
Until I get upset, and it gets a little harder.
But we know he's going to get upset, you know. I mean, that won't be new.
So how were you able to control the emotional pop-off valve when it would go?
A few years ago, Jack?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, it went both ways, you know, and you know, he had the tough job because he had the steering wheel in his hand, you know. I could walk around a little bit in the pit and let the steam off, but, you know, it's just, for me, it was all about winning and understanding how important it was, and then that's why I hired Paul, you know, as I knew that he wanted that worse, perhaps, than any other driver out there.
What sense of security does that give you in the cockpit?
Well, I think for me, Barry knows, you know, I guess what can upset me, and can kind of defuse that before it happens. But it's been a long time since Barry and I have worked together, and I would say now, at my age and this stage of my career, I've mellowed quite a bit. You know, I still have, I think, the same driving passion and fire on the track. I feel I'm a lot easier to work with since winning a championship and doing what I've done in those years since '02.
Paul Tracy will take the yellow flag. It looks like he will win the Indianapolis 500 as the yellow and white are displayed.
He ran just a spurt of fuel, and Paul Tracy's going to get it.
Scoring goes back to the previous lap. According to race control, the pass will not stick.
That passed him on the back straight before the yellow came out.
It was our race to win then, and as I said, I still say we won it.
Black and white evidence from video that Paul Tracy had completed his pass when the yellow light came on.
In your estimation, is he the missing link?
Well, I think he's the piece of the puzzle that we need as a team to put the whole thing together. My 02 run here, we had a very average car, you know, a very average whole month. Played the strategy through the race, and I had radioed in with 7 laps to go. Barry said, you know, with full fuel, go as fast as you want. And I said, I'm going as fast as I can go. This is it. And next thing you know, I can see the leaders, and we're the fastest car on the track, and, you know, there's blood in the water, and I can smell it.
Just a matter of talking to Paul several times on the telephone before making the decision. It was, and he's one of those guys that I am convinced will always give it 110%, and certainly isn't over the hill. You know, there are some drivers that I'd have no interest of going back and working with after so many years. But he's fired up, you know, and we put that together with the team and the group of people that KV put together. It's pretty impressive and pretty exciting.
This effort compared to last year's effort, on a 1 to 10, in terms of 10 being finally winning an Indy 500 and getting the sip of milk, where does this one fit in that effort?
8 out of 10. You know, I feel I've had the time to prepare physically and mentally for this race, get my weight down, get the car where we want it to be weight distribution-wise, which we lacked last year. We've got a better crew. You know, we've got to have a good qualifying run, get a good position, and then just race the race.
Both of you are so adamant about 2002. Winning in 2010, how would that affect each of you as individuals? Barry, you first.
Well, for me, it'd be just, you know, I mean, I'm back here because we have a chance to win the Indy 500 again. And that's all I'm here for. You know, if I didn't believe we had a chance, I wouldn't be here. So that'd be fantastic.
Well,
you know, I think for me, it would put to bed and put to rest an argument that I feel is going to continue to rage on between my fans and non-fans and Helio fans and non-Helio fans. It's still an argument that is contested fiercely. You know, I definitely want to taste that milk.
Indianapolis, the new format has 24 cars qualifying today, but also the top 9, which will transfer to another second segment between 4:30 and 6, and here are those 9 drivers who have been the fastest. Alex Tagliani, P1 at 226.3. Then we get down to Ed Carpenter, who is in 9th position at 225.166. The track is open for practice right now, and just a few moments ago, Elio Castroneves, who again is currently P2, went on to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in practice and turned a lap in excess of 227 miles an hour, so it would mean that he may have a shot at P1. And again, the importance of P1 in this segment, about as much as anything, is the fact that you will be able to choose first your pit position on race day.
And be able to choose the order in which you want to present for that shootout. And we heard from Alex Tagliani saying that there are 3 different options that he was considering at that point, showing that, you know, you don't just mail that one in, you got to give that a lot of thought. But in these conditions, Robbie, for him to run around 227 miles an hour, woo, baby.
And as you say, woo, Elio just got right up next to the wall there. And this is where the game really begins. And Jack earlier just talked about that rear wing angle, and every time you drop that rear wing, that main plane 1 degree, you lose 50 pounds of downforce, and all it does is take drag off the car too, so hopefully you're going faster in a straight line. But the more you do that, the freer the car gets, the less downforce it has, and you're hanging on to it. And that's the game. That's why today for the drivers is just off the charts intense, and the pressure's there versus race setup where you got a bunch of downforce.
I
found it interesting that Tag said that they have 3 different options. I was kind of thinking that the only